Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. John Owen talks about sports and movies. Thank you for checking out today's video. I always appreciate support. Let's get into it. So, with Gladiator 2 and Wicked coming out over the last week or so, I had a chance to see both of them this week while I was home for Thanksgiving with my family. Did a little double header, on Wednesday and Thursday night respectively. That's why it's coming to you on a Friday. But I really enjoyed both of them. So today we are going to hold space for two blockbuster hits. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you never miss out on any of the fun. Let me know what you thought about both of these films, one of these films, none of these films, if you feel so inclined to do that. Before we get into any content, I'm going to issue a spoiler alert. I will be going in depth about both of these movies, so if you don't want anything spoiled, save this video and watch it later after you've seen whatever movie you're interested in. Hopefully both, so you watch the entire video. But without further ado, let's start with Gladiator 2. So, I think Gladiator 2 had a really hard task at hand. You're following up an all-time classic. The first Gladiator is this super interpersonal, laser-focused plot about Maximus getting revenge for his family and fighting for the vision of what he knows Rome can be. It's an all-time classic with lots of great lines, lots of great moments, a great villain, great supporting characters, all of that. That's why it's considered, an all-time classic, right? So whenever you are following something like that, it's a very hard task, right? So I think a sequel should expand the lore, should continue on themes set in the first movie, and all that. So how does this movie serve as a continuation of the story of the first Gladiator movie? Overall, really enjoyed it. I think it does a good job of continuing the story of Lucius and Lucia, the senators from the first movie, and seeing how the aftermath of Maximus dying and not becoming emperor like he was, like the intention was, kind of how that's fallen out. Seeing the downfalls of, or the consequences of the first film play out in real time. I think that, I think this movie does a really good job of that. Rome is in this place where everyone's getting tired of these twin emperors, and the bloodshed and the war is like really starting to take a strain on the because the dream was not followed like it should have been. So I think this movie does a really good job of expanding or exploring the consequences of the first film. So I think just as a sequel, as kind of the base, it does that very well, and I really appreciate about this movie. I really liked Paul Mescal. I thought everyone was good, solid in their roles. I really liked Paul Mescal as Lucius. I thought he did a good job of portraying that very understandable and completely justified rage and bitterness and resentment he had towards the entirety of the Roman Empire, including his mother. I think he did a great job. I think it was nice, like in the beginning, that they, at least not at first, didn't try to make him this like Maximus dupe, basically, because he's like a lot more rageful, a lot more outwardly negative than Maximus was. Because even through all the shit Maximus goes through, he's still got this very calm demeanor, this very stoic nature to him, and Lucius is not like that at all. And I like that. I like that juxtaposition of their two personalities. Instead of just trying to make him go in there stoic off rip, just like Maximus was. So I really like that. I love Denzel Washington's Macarenus. I don't know if that's how you exactly say it. I'm going to butcher these names, so just be prepared. I loved his just upfrontness and boldness about his scheme to consolidate power within the Roman Empire. I mean, there's no hiding it, there's no bluff. From the jump, he is very upfront about his intentions. And he goes and he executes this plan almost flawlessly. I mean, it almost goes off without a hitch. He snakes his way into the empire, into like the trusted circle of the emperors, all that. Fantastic. Love Denzel Washington in this movie. I thought it was a very different role for him, especially at this stage of his career. But I thought he did great. I'm sure he had a blast. I would have had a blast. I love seeing Lucy again. She was so good in the first movie. She's great here again. This like devotion to the idea of her father's ideals and to Maximus and to what Rome can be. Just to have, there's like one line where she's like, I'm I would be willing to sacrifice my life for Rome at any point, but not my sons. I think that shows her devotion, that she has. She's a very devout person, devout to what she believes in. And I think that's great. I really liked her. I think that's the best pronunciation I can come up with for Pedro Pascal. I really liked him. I did think the heel turn to like how do I describe this? I didn't love how like quickly he was like regretful about like the bloodshed and all that. Like I don't feel like we had like enough time to like sit with him where he like realizes kind of the gravitas of the pain and the damage he's inflicted upon all these other people. It just feels a little quick to me, just a touch quick. I wish we would have gotten to spend like a little more time with him, like something like that, where the turn and the realization that what he's doing is wrong and now it's time to rectify his mistakes. I wish we could that would have just played out a little bit longer. But overall, I really like Pedro Pascal's character. I really like Pedro's performance. Their fight is great. The one between Lucius and Acacius, that then Lucia has to then sit there and watch while she's chained is absolutely nuts. I mean, dear God, I mean the existential dread. The two best warriors in Rome going against each other, and no matter the result, Lucia is gonna be horrifically upset. Like, of course, I mean, how could she not? Either your husband who you love is going to die, or the son, or your son. That's horrible. That's horrible. And then Lucius, decides not to kill him because he realizes, like, hey, like, this guy's on my side. Like, we want the same thing. Like, it wasn't personal. That moment of realization is incredible. And then for Acacius to die anyways to a horrific barrage of arrows, I think that scene was super well done. Loved that. I loved it. I loved it. Just a little side. The twin emperors were just weird. They were so weird. So erratic, so crazy, which was like their purpose, Like, I understood, like, that's their role in the story. So I thought they were both great. Joseph Quinn, and I don't know who the other actor is, but funny enough, one of my takeaways from this movie is I was like, I think Joseph Quinn might actually be hot enough to play Human Torch. Because when they first cast, this is a quick side note. When they first cast him, I was like, I don't know if he's hot enough to play Human Torch, but not that I think the character he plays is hot, but when I was looking at him a little more, I was like, man, he'll pull it off. Anyways, not the point. Quick tangent. But the action, the brutality, the grotesqueness in this movie is through the roof, and I loved it. The hand-to-hand combat is excellent, or the combat is excellent in this movie. There was some hand-to-hand combat, that's great too, but just overall the combat's really great. I loved all the arena fights, where they fight the guy in the rhino, when they fight with like the boat and all that, like that was nuts. The final scene against like Lucius and Macarenus, like that was a great fight. I was kind of surprised that Denzel Washington still able to throw down like that. That's probably a stunt double, but loved all the fighting, loved all the action in this movie, like really great. Really loved all of that. The spectacle to this movie's through the roof. Absolutely incredible. This movie's like pretty gay as well. Like the one emperor, like the little shorter one, is like clearly gay. Like he's got like the boys like at his feet, and then like Joseph Quinn has like the girls and stuff. So like they're very gay. They confirmed that Lucia's husband was gay. He didn't like women, so that was interesting. It was just like something I noticed in the movie. It was like very gay. I was like, I loved it. And then obviously everyone's so hot in this movie, so that was a bonus. So those are all the things that I really enjoyed and really liked. Some other parts that I was not like the biggest fan of. I didn't love making Lucius Maximus' son. I think they could have done the whole like he understands he's got to become like Maximus in order to like rally the troops and all that, and like being inspired by his bravery and his sacrifice from the first movie without him being like his son. I don't like it whenever everyone in your universe like gets related to one another. Like this was like part of my problem with the sequel series, like the sequels in Star Wars. Like it just makes your universe feel really small whenever everyone's like related to each other, and like the only people that are relevant are if you have some familial connection or something like that. So I didn't love that. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. I felt like it would have been really more powerful if Lucius would have just been inspired by the pure heroicness from Maximus, just purely off of that, and not him being his father. So I didn't love that. I would have loved like whenever Macarenus is like monologuing to Lucia about his time serving under his father and like being a slave. Like maybe actually showed us that, like, show don't tell. Like, instead of that being a monologue, it could have been like just a flashback scene. Like, we could have seen if like her father, Lucius's grandfather, like mistreated him, and that's why like Macarena's like wants to spin back so bad. Um, there's no explanation of how the twins became emperor. Like I felt like that was really needed and necessary because there's only like 16 years in between, the events of these two films. So like, just like one scene explaining how they came into the power. And I felt like, and of course, like I'm not looking for these movies for historical accuracy, but definitely some like historical. I mean, like the Romans sailing, like, they hated sailing. They're like notorious for that. Like if anybody's ever read Heroes of Olympus, like the Romans hated the sail, and if you just like have studied Roman history like a little bit, but so yeah, those are just, and I feel like the middle third of this movie like really drags on and is really slow. Solid start, great third act, okay middle. I just feel like nothing really happens like too substantial. Like the plot gets the foil, gets foiled, and it's just kind of like slow and drags on a little bit too much for my taste, the second act. So yeah, I think plot wise, not like as focused and not as sharp as the first film, but the spectacle and the character dynamics and the characters themselves are all super great. And I think that's what really drives this movie. So overall, Gladiator 2 is a fun sequel to an all-time classic. Paul Mescal does great in advancing the story of Lucius, and Denzel Washington's Macarenas was charismatic and devious. It's great to see the continuation of Lucia's story, ending with a tragic death. Despite some weaker plot elements, Gladiator 2 is a worthy sequel to the original, particularly in seeing through the vision of what Rome could actually be. I'm going to give it an 8.5, strength and honor. So now we're going to move on to Wicked, the second half of this Wicked weekend. So for context, I have not seen the musical Wicked. Yeah, take away my gay card. I know, I know, I know. But so I went in blind, like not really knowing like too much about it. Of course, I've seen all like the holding space for Divine Gravity memes. Like if you follow me on my personal Instagram, like I made that my caption on my last New York post, and which those that interview is so horrifically awkward and so funny. Like I cannot stop thinking and quoting the interview. Like just like the I'm in queer media, the pinky hold, I didn't know what's happening. That's really powerful. Like all of that is so funny, so freaking funny. But not the point. Not the point. So point is, I didn't really go into Wicked with like any like understanding or like any no, right? And I freaking loved it. I think the main thing that stuck out to me is that this movie can resonate with so many different groups of people on so many different levels. This movie is like pretty on the nose about bigotry and discrimination and how that affects people. Like you I think you could find yourself. I mean, Alphabet as this green woman, who is experiencing lots of discrimination based on something she can't control. I think there's a lot of people in this world that can identify and resonate with that. And I think that's really beautiful. This movie is like very, I mean, it's not even like subtext, it's just text, about like discrimination and bigotry, having to suppress yourself. And, like the system is telling you to fit in, so that, and don't cause a ruckus, don't cause a commotion, if you're different, you should just fall in line and deal with it. That is so on the nose to what marginalized groups have have always been told, have always been told, are being told even today. And so I think that was just like really really beautiful and powerful. Like I really like identified with having to suppress yourself, what you're feeling, what you're capable of, so you don't upset the system, so you don't upset those around you. I really identified that with the Alphabet. Like, loved it, loved Alphabet. Absolutely reasonable crash out. Not the villain in my mind. Like, she's the most justified character in the entire movie. Like, no question. Like, that's pretty obvious to me. Loved Alphabet. Cynthia Veros crushed it, crushed it. Kind of her like kind of standoffish demeanor, which I think is justified because if everyone was a jackass to you your entire life, like you're not gonna go out your way to try to like befriend everyone. I think Cynthia killed it. I was really impressed with Ariana Grande. Not that I was shocked, but very impressed. Like Obviously, the woman's got pipes, like, obviously, like, I had no doubt in her singing ability, but I love the way she portrayed Glinda, that she did a great job with portraying kind of the performative activism that Glinda does, and, I liked Glinda's arc where she's only being, like, nice to others, for the sake of advancing her own goals, and then she tries to, like, actually do something out of the goodness of her heart, and actually try to befriend Elphaba, but at the end of the day, like, she is still self-absorbed with her own self-interest, and then she picks the wizard and Madame Marble over her friend Elphaba because she's not ready, not yet, to buck the system and do that, right? Like, so I think they set that up to be a really great completion of her arc in the part two of this movie, or the part two that comes out next year. So I loved Glinda. I loved Alphaba. I love their dynamic. They go from like hating each other to actually being friends. And the part where they sing, I hope you're happy with whatever you're getting, however that song goes. Thought that was really great. I loved everything that the two of them did. Loved, 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 loved. Absolutely loved it. I liked Jeff Goldblum in his small role as the Oz. Like I liked Madame Marble. I love Jonathan Bailey. Oh my god, I can't remember the prince's name, but his number did something to me. But I loved how he genuinely was the only person that saw Elphaba like for who she was and appreciated and respected her without some alternative motive. Like, yeah, Madame Marble appeared to be like looking out for Elphaba, but she only wanted Elphaba for her power. Uveros, I think is how you say Jonathan Bailey's. Oh, we're just gonna go with that. Like he truly cared and saw Ethelwolf for who she was, and I think that was really powerful and really incredible. There was no alternative motive. There was no secondary, you know, option with him. There's a reason, that Alphabet for even if it was unintentional, didn't put him to sleep because she knew deep down that he actually cared and was actually kind. I mean, she says it like you're not as shallow and self-absorbed as you pretend to be because you actually do care a lot. The one character I loved was Dr. Dillingham. Loved him, loved him, loved everything with the animals. It's very, very on the nose. Very relevant to the type of rhetoric that we see with marginalized groups in this country today, stuff like that. So, absolutely loved it. The music, oh my god, popular. What is this feeling? Defying Gravity, obviously. Just all the music, all bangers, every single song, absolute banger. Vocals were great. I mean, obviously, hell, Cynthia was Elphaba on Broadway. Ariana Grande is Ariana Grande. Like, of course, I expected the music to be great. The fact that they sung all this live, like they're not lip syncing during their scenes, is so incredible and so cool. Yeah, this movie just was like absolutely out of this world. Yeah, sure, maybe not the most complex plot, in the world. Maybe nothing like super crazy or revolutionary or cutting edge plot wise, but it didn't need to be. That's like not the focus. This is a very like the Wizard of Oz is a very well understood, like very old tale. Like, we know Oz, like the twist that, oh, Oz actually doesn't have powers. Like everyone knew that going in. Like if you've seen Wizard of Oz, like that the Wizard of Oz doesn't have power. It's all a scam. It's all fake. Him being behind the oppression of the animals, not really shocking, But this movie didn't need some like convoluted, expertly written plot. Like that's the point. This movie is so much about personal growth and accepting who you are and not being willing to let others bring you down. Everyone deserves a chance to fly. Whatever that might be, whatever ceiling might be holding you down. Like I think that's so powerful and why this movie or why Wicked just in general resonates with so many people on such a deep level because it speaks to a lot of people on a lot of different levels and it was beautiful. Overall, a worthy adaptation of one of the most iconic musicals ever, Wicked Part 1, absolutely delivers. The music, acting, Elphaba and Glinda's relationship, and timely messaging were all incredible. An emotional story that speaks to so many different people in many different ways. This movie deserves its flowers. Rating 10 out of 10, and I will continue to hold space for. But thank you for watching today's video. I know I've been inactive on the channel. I just haven't been in space to create. But I'm gonna try to get back on the saddle. One of my New Year's resolutions coming into the new year coming up is that make videos more consistently. But I appreciate every time any of you tune in. Make sure you check out the link content above. Have a great day. Thanks.